Hello and welcome to another Beard Clever video. Now this video is for quite an old build. It was actually the January-February 2022 challenge from the TCU Discord with the theme of new beginnings. Now if you watch my vlog you'll have seen these clips as I put them in the vlog as I go along, but I do also like to bring these builds together into a single whole video which I then share on the channel. So hopefully you find this interesting as well, to see it all in one rather than spread over a month and a half of build. So for this challenge I decided, I was inspired by a picture I actually saw on a website, and I will put a link in the description below. I will not be able to link it up here because YouTube won't let me, about the United States Air Force trucking a B52 bomber across the United States so that it could be going used as a test article for new avionics and what have you. And obviously new beginnings. It was an old airframe getting a new lease of life. And I combine that with the thought that I could have this as part of my model railway. So the build I'm doing here will eventually be combined into my big model railway when I get round to that, and will be part of the diorama, part of the scenery, the backdrop there. This was a great fun build. I have not had so much fun building something, and I'm so pleased with the outcome. As it happens, I don't think I won, but I don't care. I never enter to win. Can't remember now. Go and have a look at the summary videos if you're interested in who won this challenge and see the other entries, because they're always very, very good. But for now, let's go back in time to the beginning of 2022, have a look and see how this build goes. At the end, there'll be a load of pictures, and then I will thank you for watching when I get back, but thank you for watching now, and enjoy. Finally, towards the end of January, and I've got until the end of February to build this, and my mum arrived for 3 weeks on Monday, so I'm going to really be pushing it. These two kits are arrived, and this is the core of my build for the TCU Challenge. Now the TCU Challenge, the theme is new beginnings, and what I'm doing is, there is currently, I think it might have even arrived, but when this was announced, there was a B52H Stratofortress being trucked across America to begin a new life as a test bed for new systems. And I saw this news story and I went, I want to build that diorama. I will flick some pictures up on the screen if I remember to, hopefully I will, of some of the inspirational pictures that I've got, some of the ideas that have inspired me from the Twitter feed and from the news story, which I'll also attempt to remember to link in the description below, because it's really interesting to read, so go and check it out after you finish watching this video, of course. Quinn from Quinian's Budget Crafts told me that the truck towing is a Peterbilt 359, and I believed him implicitly, so I have managed to find one of these. Now this is, I haven't even looked in this. This is a very old kit, as you can see. Look at how old it is, and I'm actually quite. I feel a bit kind of odd making such a beautiful kit, but kits are designed to be made, aren't they? They're not designed to be looked at and not used. So I have my work cut out. I need to assemble and paint this, which is going to be the easier part. Looks like that's not going to be all that difficult. Touch wood. But the big thing that I'm going to need to do, and this is also makes me feel a bit odd, is I've got the B52 to make. Now, still sealed, haven't even opened it. All I actually need, and I feel really odd, all I actually need for this is the fuselage, because the wings went to other places and the engines went to other places. So I'm going to have to just focus on the build, but I'm not going to throw anything away, obviously, and I will end up with some awesome spares out of this build, which I'll be able to use on some other stuff, I'm sure. So the idea is that the fuselage of the Stratofortress is on a trailer. Now I found some 3D printable trailers that I might be able to use, but I'm going to have to basically scratch build a lot of that. That's going to be the hardest part, not least building this beautiful model. I might actually end up buying another one and making a real version, because yeah, again, I feel a bit odd not making it fully, but the length of this is 66.4 centimeters. So that's just the length of the fuselage. So it's going to have a 60 centimeter long trailer being pulled by that truck. and that tells you just what an amazing thing this actually is. So I'm going to get these cleaned up, start assembling. I'm going to try and drop in as much as I can on the video to show how I'm going, but I'm going to focus more, as per usual, on the diorama side, on the actual building side. So getting this done and getting the truck done are just small elements of the diorama, though they are going to take me at least a week before I can even start thinking about it. And I'll also share as I go along how I do the 3D printing and the scratch building for the trailer. I've bit off a huge amount here. This is a big challenge, and I'm looking at this thinking, I don't know if I'm even going to get it done in time, but you don't know if you don't try, so I'm going to give it a go, and I'll get it as close as I can before the end of the month, and it should look amazing because, yeah, I'm pretty excited for building the actual diorama of it going. I think I'm going to do the one going over the bridge with the cavern and all the trees. So yeah, we shall see. I have ordered about 300 trees as well, which are on their way, not just for this, for the model railway, but they're also going to be useful for this. So I've got about 300 cheap trees to do, which will wood that ravine. But anyway, a lot of talking again, but this is the start of it. Let's get going. I'm very late starting this. It's already a month's past. A lot of people have already got a long way, and I've got a huge challenge in front of me. I suppose that was kind of inevitable. I've opened up this kit, and it's beautiful, it's glorious. It's just so wonderful that I just cannot bring myself to, well, initially, and we'll find out if I'm going to or not, but yeah, it hurts me to think about basically building a wreck out of it. So printer's going, don't know if you can hear in the background. I found myself a B52 file. I've just split it in bits and hollowed it. It's going to be two print plates on my Saturn. So one's running now, I'm going to run it overnight. Hopefully it works. And if that works, then I can put this glorious, beautiful girl back in a box and build her properly at some point. Having said that, I have made some really good progress actually. So I've assembled and primed the truck. So there we are. I'm really pleased. That was something that I managed to get done in my 22 minutes. Took more than 22 minutes, but that's what I spent my time doing it. So tomorrow I can paint that. Yeah, that's a really good start. The other thing is now that I actually have the kit, and I know the exact length of the fuselage, I can both start to design and print the trailer, which is going to be another thing, and I might even use my 2 Pro for that. And also I'm going to be able to start actually laying out the terrain, so I'll make a start on that tomorrow. I feel under a bit of pressure on this, but I feel excited pressure, not negative pressure, which is cool. So yes, I'm gonna crack on. I'll bring you along for the ride, obviously. But fingers crossed that print works, and I can actually do something real with this. Actually, make build this properly. So we shall see. Well, plate 1 printed out last night. This has not been cured. It's been washed in alcohol and also in hot water. But what I wanted to do is just show you that it's worked. So thankfully, that nice kit. Hopefully, if the second plate works, which is printing now, that nice kit can be saved. But what I'm having to do, and I'm doing this before I'm curing, is I don't want the undercarriage down, and I don't want to have the wings. It's actually going to be cut out like this under the wings, which is going to be interesting. So what I thought I'd do is, before I cure, I would do as much of this surgery as I possibly can, because once it's cured it'll be hard, so I figured it'd be easier for me to break these off, and as you can see it is being easier for me to break these off, though I have actually just snapped that bit of the I might get some snips, that bit of the fuselage. But yeah, so I'm going to carve these bits off, clean it up, and then when it's cured I can come along and remodel where I need to with sculpting stuff. So just a little bit of probably milliput I'll use, I'm not sure. So yeah, so I'm just going to clean these up, but the good thing is this has worked, and it's going to look good. I think it's going to stick together nicely, and we're going to end up with a nice result. So yeah, I'll get this cleaned up, finish the other print, and then bring you along for the next step when I get to it, which will be putting this together. Because I've printed this, it's not a model that I'm putting together. I will bring you along for some of that, but not all of it, like I've said. But now this is actually feels a little bit more like crafting, even though it's 3D printed. because I'm going to have to do some sculpting. But I'm very pleased it's worked out as well as it has. As I say now, just to kind of cut off these edges. When I start sawing, I will put a mask on. When you're just clipping like this, you don't need to, obviously, but do pay attention and take precautions for your health. Resin is not a nice stuff, even though this is mostly cured, it's still not nice. You don't want to be breathing it in. Well, that was hard work, but successful. So I'm going to keep quite a lot of it. This is the piece that I wanted to keep where the cutout for the wings is going to go, and actually the mesh inside is going to be pretty cool for what I need to do anyway. The waste stuff, so the bit I cut off, I'm going to keep that because I can think of use for that, so that can go in my bits box. And I'm also going to keep the wheels, because they're also going to be maybe useful for something, so I'm not going to throw those away. So it's just the little shards and the dust that have gone in the bin, so that's cool. So what I'm going to do now is cure that and put that into my curing machine, and then glue it together and start to assemble this awesome plane. As I said, the second plate is printing now. It's going to take about 8 hours or so, and that won't have as much cutting, but it will have some cutting because I need to take some of the roots of the tailplane off, which I had to cut off in the Windows tool. I'm not very good at editing 3D files. If I was, then I wouldn't be cutting through resin like this. I would have done all the changes on the computer, but I've no idea how to do it, and such a rush now that I just thought, do the way you know, but maybe I'll learn one day. Anyway, very pleased about that. Chuck that in the curing machine, and then let's crack on. So what I'm going to do now is start to glue the fuselage together. I've just finished printing actually the second part of this, but I'm going to glue the first part together. And my idea, I don't know whether it's going to work because I always struggle to keep these square, but my idea this time is to use these lollipop sticks to at least keep it straight in that direction. Now there is going to be some filling, as you can see, but that's fine. I can cope with that. So I'm going to need to have another one of these prepared. So what I'll do is super glue in the gap and then clamp it in place. Now one thing I've found is super glue really likes to stick to resin until it doesn't. So you need to get it right first time, because in my experience, if you start moving it around and all that stuff, then you'll be unhappy, because yeah, it won't work. So that can go there. Hold it nice and square if I can. Get it square. There we are. And then we'll come in with the clamp, which will hold it, hopefully, finally square. Just like that. So make sure that's done. There we are. Right, we're happy with that. Happy with that now. Good. Right, so I'll leave that for a little bit, and that should now set up nicely. Hopefully won't be too much of a step or a gap for me to fill. That looks okay. Good. So the second part, as I say, just finished printing. I've just washed the first one, and I'm about to try and wash the second one. I think it looks like there's been slightly more failures on this one, but hopefully I'll be able to recover it. So yeah, I'll get that washed and cured, and then there's a little bit of chopping to do in the same way as I did on this one. Need to chop the the tail plane a bit. So yes, I'll get that all done and show you what it looks like when it's all glued together. So that clamping idea worked really well. The second two parts have just finished curing, and I've just glued them together now and clamped as well, so they'll be ready for working with later, and then I'll clamp the whole lot together. But on this part, there's a couple of things I actually need to do. First thing is, you can see there's quite a gap here, so I'm going to need to fill that with some milliput or something like that. The second thing is, I actually have cut straight here, and what I need is kind of a shape like this. So where it actually goes forwards in where the wing is. So it kind of has that wing shape, and it has a little bit of an overhang. So what I'm going to try to do is get some XPS, glue some XPS onto here using the super strong glue, and then come along with a hot wire cutter and mask it off with cardboard, make sure that's really firm, and then come along and cut the shape in and shape it out so that it looks right, because it doesn't look right at the moment. Once I've glued the back on, I'll have to do the same thing at this end, because this will also need to be a little bit different. However, most everything else is looking superb, and I'm very pleased with it. Very pleased indeed, actually. It's turned out far better than I expected. Now, the actual truck, which is going to be doing the towing, some of it's down in the painting station being painted, and this has finished being primed now. So that's the way it goes, actually. No, sorry, that's the way it goes. That's the size of the truck compared to the plane, which is about right. I'm going to need to print out one more piece for this. A load of wheels I'm going to need to print, and also the bogie, which goes under here. And then I'm going to scratch build the actual trailer. Now, the actual trailer only goes about this long. The tail of the plane is hanging in midair, which is pretty incredible. But the really cool thing about having this all together is I'm going to be able to start to sketch out on my board and start to do the terrain, which is going to take some time. And I've had an awesome idea. This is obviously a diorama. That's all this is going to be. However, I think that if I do this well and do this nicely, I might eventually build it into my main model railway. And that would be a really cool little bit of detail, a little bit of interest, high up, tucked away from the actual model railway as scenery in the mountain, which I want to plan. We'll have the B52 being towed across America. Anyway, that's for the future, not for now. The two other parts are drying over there. I'm going to get some milliput, do this, and then I'll bring you along when I come to do the actual XPS, but that's an explanation of the next steps. And I'm painting up the truck as well, so that will just be done, and that will just appear in this video. I'm not going to do anything more than telling you about the truck. It was a very easy kit to put together. Really recommended, actually. Really nice looking kit, and went together very quickly. So yeah, milliput time, and then I'll bring you back for the attempt at re-sculpting back on some more of the fuselage. Okay, against all the odds, I think this blue foam idea is actually going to work. So what I've got is two of the thin blue foams. I think they're a centimetre or something like that, maybe thick. And I've cut them so that they're roughly the right length for the gap. So that's about the gap I can see on the picture. And interestingly enough, I think actually it's painting that does. I can paint on the shape, so I don't have to do any carving underneath. And what I'm doing is very carefully, and I'll try and do this on camera. It's very difficult to get on camera, but very carefully, I'm carving along the contour that I can see going down the plane. So it's not very easy to do, but I think it's doable. I think it'll work quite well. So I've just started playing with this, as you can see. I've not glued it in place. And it working as well as it is, what I'm going to do now, before I do any more, is I'm going to use PVA to glue these two together, because I'll be able to continue cutting through those. I'll leave those weighted down and let them properly dry overnight. And then once that's dry, then I will come along and I will stick them in place in here. And then once that's stuck in place, I will then continue carving. So that's my idea, and I think it's going to work, which is fantastic. The other thing is, as part of this clip, it's all together. So I also have some milliputting to do here. So glue these two together, then when that's completely dry, glue it to the fuselage, or actually probably glue it straight to the fuselage, and then when everything's all dry and completely sealed together, then I can come along, carve out the shape of the fuselage and return that section, and we're rocking and rolling. Very exciting. I wasn't expecting to do this clip. I will now get to the actual layout of the board, of the display piece. So I've still got a little bit of work to do on the actual plane. You can see I've got a bit of filling and then I've got some sanding to do over the joints and what have you. But it's now to a point where I can really start to see the size of what I'm playing with. So here we have the truck which is doing the towing. I've printed out a couple of pictures, I zoomed one in so that it's a little bit closer in on the truck, and one which is the full picture that I'm using for my inspiration. And this is the base which I think is going to be good for me to use actually to build the entire diorama on. It's a very large sheet obviously, but it's a good size and it will give the thing space to breathe. Now I'll try to remember to put a picture on the screen, or put this picture on the screen so that it's a bit clearer for you. But basically it's actually quite a flat shelf, so it's actually going to work really well with this, including having the base of this little kind of ravine and then some of the mountain at the back as well. It's actually going to work quite well, which I'm quite pleased about. So my plan is to build the road first, or at least have the roadway first, and then to build up the terrain and scenery kind of around it. So literally where the supports go into the ground, they will go down onto the wood, and then I will build up around them with whatever material I use, probably screwed up newspaper, and then scenery over the top. So that's my plan. So the first thing I need to do is get the road, and I'm going to make use of the thin black XPS, which I like so much, the underfloor XPS, because I think that with a little bit of roughing up will do quite well for the black tarmac, because it's actually quite new black tarmac, and I'll be able to maybe dry brush it with some white, or put some like chalk dust on it and seal it in, and then it will look really, really nice for the road. So that's what I'm going to use. So I'm going to get the road as a single piece, which I think I can do. If I can't, then I will have at least the bridge as a single piece, and then the second part of the road here. And the only question I've got at the moment is, am I going to do the entire bowl, or am I going to have the bridge actually going off the edge of this display? And part of me thinks going off the edge of the display is going to look really cool, so that's where I'm going at the moment. But then that will make it more difficult for me to build this into the model railway later, but I can cross that bridge. Future me isn't here yet, is he? So that's my plan. Going to get the road that's going to come in from over here, go along straight, and the bridge is going to it's basically just going to be a straight road. I think it's going to be a straight road going at a slight angle across. That's my plan at the moment. Having a slight turn would make it a little bit more dynamic. Quinn was the one that pointed that out, but I'm not sure that there would be a turn in the middle of this bridge, which is the problem. So that's the only reason why I might do it a little bit further on and have it going off the bridge. But I think straight, to be honest, because it's what I see here and it's what's realistic. So I'm going to go and get the materials, I'm going to do some measuring, going to do some cutting, and then we're going to work out how we're actually going to do this underneath support, which I think it's going to be quite easy with the materials I've got, which is also quite a relief. So yeah, we'll build the supports up, lay the road over the top, and then start building up the scenery around it. As I say, it feels like this shouldn't be too hard, and I wanted to say that now because I'm thinking it, and if this turns out to be a right pain, we can look back at this moment and say that's when I said the wrong thing. So with the road done, what I'm now looking at doing is the substructure of the road. So I haven't obviously got architectural drawings, but I can look at this and work out roughly what's going on, and I can guess, and so that's what I'm doing. So this here is some 2 centimetre or 1.5 centimetre, slightly thicker green foam, which I think is going to be the right dimension. And this is going to go underneath the main road surface and have the guardrail running off of it, and then have the supports for the legs, for the uprights underneath it as well. So I've made it 2 centimetres wider than the road, so this is going to be 20 centimetres wide. And what I'm doing now is just using a very sharp knife and a safety ruler to cut that. There we are. So that was lots of very shallow cuts, very shallow passes, because I wanted to try and get it as 90 degrees as I can. I think I've done a pretty good job. So what we have there is the substructure of the road. So the road surface, and it probably doesn't actually need to be that long, thinking about it. I maybe actually should trim it down slightly, because it actually only needs to be the length of the bridge, and the bridge starts around where this join is. So yeah, that may actually not be correct, but that's good because I can cut off the damaged bit. You can't see, it's just out of shot, a bit of a damaged bit there. So that's the substructure of the road. What I'm then going to do is cut some another section that's going to make this square, so 1 centimetre or whatever, and that can then be glued on the side, on each side, which is how the guardrail is, and will run all the way down the edge of the bridge, and actually stops when it comes off the off the bridge. So yeah, so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to do a little bit of measuring, offer this up, work it out, and then trim the underneath so that it's actually the correct length for the bridge and however long I want the bridge to be. And then I'm going to start to make use of my pillars. Now I've trimmed these down, they're 20 centimetres, which is how high I want them. So they're 20 centimetres high, and they are going to be having another block of this green foam. I'm going to use a lot of this, probably use this whole sheet, going across, protruding a little bit, and then going across to the other side. And these will be glued to that other sheet that will go across, but the width of where that goes up is actually the edge of this green sheet. So yeah, so it's coming together. So I'm going to do some measuring, do some working out, bring you back for the next step when I get to it, and then what I aim to have by this evening is all of this glued and clamped and going off, so that tomorrow I can actually mount it on the board and then start working out how to do all the contours around it. So very, very excited, I can tell you. So I've realised that I can use all of that substructure and just hide it in the actual in the terrain as it comes up, so I don't need to cut that down. So what I'm doing now is I'm making the cross members, which are going to go across the top of the pillars. And I found that I measured it slightly wrong. I cut this by hand, but I actually want it to be 2.5, not 3 across, because that's how wide my pillars are, and this should be the exact same width as the pillars. So I'm just trimming it down with the Prow. Just it's a bit of an easier tool to use, you get a bit more of an accurate cut. And what I'll then do is very carefully stick these to the top of the pillars to get that bit done. Now what I think I'm going to do is, I'm not sure whether I'll be able to, but I think I might try and pin these. So I'll put a little cocktail stick out of shot into the top of the pillar and put it and make it so that it will go, or maybe put a hole in the pillar and push a cocktail stick through or something, just so it's pinned, and that will make it a little bit more secure. So I'm going to have an explore on that, and then I'll bring you back when I come to the gluing. So yeah, those are the cross pieces that are going to go across the top of the pillars. I changed my mind about pinning, just think it's going to not be needed, especially because this is not a playing piece. If this was going on a desktop, on a tabletop for gaming, then definitely I would say pin it, but I think I don't need to. So what I'm going to do is use my Moment Fix Extreme, which I really like. And I've marked 2 centimetres in from each edge, which is where I need the end of the pillar to sit. And I'm going to just simply glue this in place using this awesome super strong glue. Let's give it a good press down. And that should grab and hold quite nicely. So I'm going to do that on all of these, all 6. And then that's the cross pieces, which is these pieces here. Looking at it, there's actually 3. Oops, there actually should be another one in the middle. I don't think I have enough material to do that. So I may look and see if I do. If I do, then I'll put another one in the centre. But for now, I'm just going to do the outer 2. That's a bit of a mistake. I hadn't noticed that until I just pulled it over. So yeah, so I'm going to do the rest of these, and I may put another one in the middle, but just gluing down with this Moment Extreme. And then we'll come and finish off the rest of the road bed, and then I'll wrap it up for the evening. Very, very pleased with the progress. So I did have enough materials, so I've done the 3 pillars. And what I'm doing now is I'm about to take my wire brush and rough up this smooth side of the black foam, and then I'll put PVA on that, turn it over and glue it down to the green foam, and I'll do the same there, trim it off to length, and then I will get some more of the green foam and put the barrier in, but I won't film that because it'll be the same. But I just wanted to point out, when you're using this sort of foam which has a very shiny side, if you were to glue that down with PVA it would seem to stick, but it would immediately be able to peel off. It would not be very secure because this is very shiny, so you need to rough it up with a wire brush. So I'm going to get that done, get it glued. I'll probably weight it down with my metal, with the long metal joining strips that I have that I use for weights, and then I'll come along and I'll glue the guardrail in to the correct length. I think the guardrail is going to go to roughly where this is, because I think that's where I'm going to have the bank coming down here. So I'll do a guardrail the length of this. So that's going to be nice and easy, and then just have a little bit more of the road there, which is where the land will be. So anyway, onwards and upwards, let's get this done. Really close to, I'm very tired, not feeling very well, so I'm very pleased to have cracked on with this so well this evening. So I'll get this done and I'll be back tomorrow to do the next steps. Good progress last night and this morning. I've put the legs, I've attached them now to the actual road bed, so they are glued in place. I did actually end up having to re-glue the surface using my strong glue because the PVA just wasn't grabbing enough. And I did actually realise that I trimmed this down wrong. I'm actually going to be a bit short on this side, so I'm going to need to extend the road some, but I'll do that right at the end because it doesn't really matter a huge amount. What I'm about to do now is look to actually glue these legs to the baseboard, or at least start to work out how my scenery and terrain is going to be. I am wondering whether I might move it a little bit further back as well. I'm not sure, I need to play around with it. But what I wanted to show you was that these sets, these squares, these carpentry squares are so useful. I mean, if you don't have them, they're rapid. Oh, that was a Xena knocking my camera there. Can you please stop doing that, Xena? She's playing with her blue monkey and just hit it against the camera. Come on, up we come. There we are. Here she is, little monster that she is. Yeah, so these are so useful. Really have so many uses. I used them on the Smaug diorama to hold square, and now what I'm able to do is use them to make sure that I'm actually at exactly the end of the board where the end of my road is going to go off the side of the diorama. So really useful things. So yeah, so the next steps is put the side on, because I've not done that yet. So put the little railing on over there on the side, and then start to work out how I'm actually going to shape the scenery, because the scenery actually, I'm going to have a flat front, which I didn't really want, but I am going to have a flat front because it slopes kind of down like this, and then it slopes down here, and then it gets about to its deepest here, and then on the thing it starts to slope back up towards this side. So my plan is, and I'll bring you along for this when I start to do it, I don't have very much time now, my plan is actually to get some cardboard and start to draw out what I think my contours are going to be. So I'll have cardboard I can tack to the front, and that will have the shape. I'll have a cardboard I can tack to each side and to the back, and then that means that I can put in some cardboard runners to then papier-mâché over the top, and then when I've done that I will put the modelling compound for the texture. So that's my plan at the moment. I'm really pleased with how it's going. I think it's going to look great, and it's a lot of new techniques that are going to be really useful for me with the model railway. So yeah, really good to learn. Say bye-bye, Xena. Say bye-bye, little Xena Z. There you are. She's a monster. I changed my mind, as I do sometimes. But before I come to that, I have printed out a couple of these crew cab pickups, because there's one following close behind with a sign on top of it, and there's another one just here actually pulling a trailer, so I'm not sure. I'll have to dig that out. I printed a couple of those off. They're just off of Thingiverse, or a free file, so that's pretty cool. So that's going to have to go into the painting queue. The change of mind involves how I'm going to do the scenery, and it's actually a bit of a creep in scope in what I'm doing, but I've always wanted to do this, and so frankly, I'm just going to do it. And I think this is going to feed into the model railway as well. So down here, a bit noisy, I've got my big box of offcuts, so just expanded polystyrene. And I'm going to build the terrain up using the expanded polystyrene, because rather than having a black front, what I want is to have is a little bit of a cave, so and paint it so that it's got like the striations and the layers of the rock, so that when I put this onto the layout, I can potentially have something exposed, and you'll be able to see like some cavers and what have you inside the cave. And that's my plan. That's what I think I'm going to do. So that means that rather than actually having a template here, well, I might actually still have a template here on the left, which will be where that end of the diorama will be, and the same on the right I'll have with cardboard or whatever. On the front, I'm just going to have it with the expanded polystyrene, a little bit pulled back from the edge of the board, and then I will build on in the front of that with the colours and the textures I want for the rocks. So what I'm going to do is take my bits of polystyrene, and you can see that one actually randomly is nearly the right width, and build up this terrain. Then when I've got it, I'm going to build it right the way up, stick it down, but I won't stick it down until I've carved in, or so drawn in with a pen where I need to cut it, and then I'll use a hot wire cutter to actually do the cutting. So I'll come back to filming once I've got this all stacked up and drawn on, and I'll show you how I'm going to do the hot wire cutting, and then I'll glue it in place, and then I'm going to carve out a cave, do some stalagmites and stalactites, put some cavers in it, maybe have a river running through it, you know, just have a little bit of interest in this area here, because this is where the road joins into the bank here, and it will kind of like go down like this. So I've got quite a lot of flat area at the front here, which I can put a nice cave in. So anyway, a lot of talking. I've been thinking about this a bit, as you can tell. I'm very, very excited, so I'm going to crack on. So as you saw with my speeded up section just then, I had a bit of a play around, and I'm actually quite happy with where I got to. I went a little bit further along during that speeded up section, but I've taken them out because I think that this, where I've got now, is getting close to satisfactory. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use the fix to glue down most of these, probably apart from that one, because I do need to put another bit in here, and then leave it like that. So I'll be able to lift the bridge out and then do some beginning carving of the shape, and then when that's done I can continue gluing along. So I'm probably going to take 3, maybe even 4 sessions of sticking the polystyrene down, shaping it and lifting the bridge in and out, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to do it so that I can lift the bridge out until the last minute when I'm going to glue the bridge in and start actually sticking down the scenic material, because that's going to make it easier for me to get in with a hot wire cutter and to shape it well. However, the one thing I did want to point out, and I've not got the camera in the perfect angle, but I'm going to be leaving a gap here, like I said, and I'm going to have a 2-level cave just in here. So there's a little bit of a kind of false tunnel effect by that being pushed over a bit, and there's like a level up here, and then there's a little tunnel here. So I could maybe even have a little river here, and that maybe on the model railway then can come out of a cave, you know, further on, which will be quite interesting. Anyway, what I'm going to do is glue it down, so I will pop some music on and do the gluing. You can see how I do it, and yeah, when I come to do the carving, I will put the camera back on as well. So I had a little bit more progress, and what I've decided to do is go for this oversized slab at the back, which will give me an idea of where that contour is going to go. I've glued in over here, building more of this terrain. Finding it quite an interesting challenge to think, because I need to make sure that I don't put any glue where I want a hot wire cut. So I need to make sure that as I build these up, I'm building them up and gluing them only where the hot wire cut is not going to run. So that's proven to be quite a head scratcher. But what I'll do is I will put my glue all along the back. I won't run the camera because it's going to get a bit fiddly. And then stick that in place and leave it. And then I'll come back to continuing along the contour, bringing the level down here, which is going okay, but I've reached this point and I've kind of hit a bit of a mental block, so this is why I'm doing the back bit. So yeah, get that glued in place and then keep putting bits of polystyrene in. That's the plan. So with this big back piece on, what I'm going to do now, I need to really start to build up the terrain around it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark where these pillars are, so I can then start to build all of the terrain while the bridge is actually not in the way. So I can do this without knocking it, that would be ideal. It doesn't need to be massively accurate, just close enough, because I will leave gaps around all of these areas, and then I'll be able to slot the bridge in, glue it in place, and fill in the gaps around the legs quite easily. And then I can get to doing the rest of this scenery, building up the rest of the contours. So yeah, just roughly sketching where these legs are, and then move the bridge out the way and crack on with the rest of the polystyrene, which I'll do probably mostly off camera because it's going to be a bit of a dull thing. The one key thing to remember is when I'm putting the polystyrene on and applying glue, I need to make sure that any glue I apply is not near where I want to cut, otherwise the hot wire cutter won't go through, and I'll need to resort to a sharp knife, which isn't ideal. But anyway, there are where all the legs are. So I can now put the bridge to one side, and now I can start to build up the rest of it without that bridge in the way, because it is a bit, and can get the rest of this contour as it comes down and as it goes up to a cliff, and then kind of like has a little bit of a shade away. So yeah, I'm going to do that. I'll bring you along when I've got a little bit more glued in, when I've got a little bit more, maybe when I've finished doing all of the polystyrene, I'm about to start the hot wire cutting. That's probably the next stage to do. One other thing to mention actually, while I'm on this clip, just move the camera around, is I started painting up the actual truck, and I've got the two SUVs. Unfortunately, two of the wheels failed to print, so I'm going to need to make some backup for that vehicle. But this vehicle now is fine and will be ready to go and print. These are paint even. These are vehicles that are going to be following behind the towed plane. The one thing that I've not done is the actual extension, which is going to be behind this, to actually sit the plane on. I really need to start getting into that. But I have done all of the filling on the plane, and now I'm going to also get some very fine sandpaper and just sand that down before painting. So it is making progress. I'm just nervous, so I don't know how to do the attachment on the trailer. I found some files, but they don't really print out, or they don't really appear to print out very nicely. So I might actually even end up just using balsa wood and scraps of plastic, scraps of sprue, and try to make something up on my own, which I'm sure I'll be alright to do it, but yeah, so it's going to be an interesting challenge, that, and of course when I get to that I will turn the camera on and show you how I'm doing it. But for now I'm going to just do some polystyrene work, and yeah, we're gonna crack on. I'm at that stage now where I think, why do I have a YouTube channel? I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm just making it up as I go along. But hey, that's all we ever do, isn't it? So what I've done is I've glued loads of this polystyrene, and as you can see, built it up. And I've drawn some lines along the back, and I have my wand, which never works very well. So hopefully it's going to work this time. And I'm going to attempt to sculpt in some of what I see. Now I do see that there is a bit of a ravine here, kind of coming down here, and I also have basically decided that this rough line, and obviously it's going to be smoothed out a bit, but this rough line is where the cliff or the cutout is going to be, and then there's a little bit more of a kind of smoothed area here. So yeah, I've no idea how this is going to go. We're just going to kind of give it a go and hope that it doesn't go too terribly wrong. So let's see what happens. So this wand is part of the hot wire foam factory, and I love their router tool, but their wand I've never had much luck with, so hopefully this is going to work well. Also, I am doing this before my glue is set, which is probably not ideal. We've got a cut that can go into my box to save. So I'm going to carry on with this, hacking away, smoothing it out. I will need to come along and smooth that a lot, but I'm going to be putting modelling compound on, so I'll be able to smooth a lot of the saw marks and the irregularities there. Like I say, I want to have a bit of a ravine coming in here, but I'm going to move the bridge out of the way now and get in there and try and continue that cut. Pretty happy with that. And I'll show you what it looks like when I get to the next step, which is going to be smoothing all this off. So we're making some good progress. I'm pretty pleased with where I've got to now. I don't have much more time today, so yeah, just getting this done as and when I can. Just lift the bridge out of the way, and there you can see the Mod Podge and the mishmash of bits of polystyrene that I've put in. So I've just done something I said I was going to do ages ago, and I've trimmed down for these side barriers. What I've done is I've taken some of the green foam again, trimmed it to a size, and then used the Proxon to shave off the texture, which is something that Proxon is just so good at. It really is good. So now what I'm going to do is come along and glue these in place just like that. So stick these there and on the inside, and then when that's stuck, then I am going to look at actually gluing the bridge in place. Though I think I might do a little bit of the modelling compound back here. It's going to be a bit of a challenge this, because access down there is not very easy, but I don't want to put modelling compound too much so that then the bridge doesn't fit in. So I kind of need to juggle that timing and make sure that my modelling compound goes on not too early and not too late, basically. So yeah, but the next thing is the modelling compound and getting all of the final parts of the 3D and the terrain in. Now I will probably make use of some screwed up newspaper to bulk some of this out. So certainly where you've got underneath in here, we've got quite a large void. I'll probably put some masking tape over there or screwed up newspaper and throw it in, and then I can modelling compound over the top of that. And for some of these little areas here, rather than use modelling compound for all of that, I can screw up a bit of newspaper and or a packing paper, and that will be very, very good. The other thing that I need to do is the buttress. So it might actually be that I should do the buttress next, and then when the buttress is in, then start doing the modelling compound. So maybe I'll do that. But anyway, first, before all of that, I'm going to glue this in place, just using the same super strong glue as I've used on the rest of it. And when that's done, I will have a think about whether I'm going to do the buttress. So I ended up coming back in with the hot wire cutter and trimming down the back a bit, making this crevice a little bit more obvious, and also just shaping off around here, which is what prompted me to do it, to do a little bit more shape around here. And the reason is what I've worked out what I need to do is I'm going to need to work on everything below the bridge now, but not this shelf over here, because this shelf over here will have the buttress which is attached to the bridge. So I'm going to work on all of this now with the modelling compound, obviously avoiding the sections where the the uprights go, so everything back here, then put the bridge in, stick that in place, glue that in place, then fill in around where the uprights are, and then work on the buttress and then work on the back. So that's going to have to be how I do it. So what I'm going to do now is going to mix up some modelling compound, and I'm going to come along and I'm going to start to work specifically on the areas which are going to be pretty much impossible to reach once I've got the bridge in place. So I will bring you along for that. I don't know whether I'll talk or whether I'll just put some music on, and even whether I'll show all of it. But I'll at least show some of it, how I'm going to work out and how I'm going to do these. This work. I might actually shave that down even a little bit more, or maybe just build up an angle there, because this is where this kind of actually needs to come up a little bit higher. I've made a little bit of a. It's not quite right for the for how it looks on the picture. But it's going to be fine. So yeah, I'll get some modelling compound and I'll bring you along and show you what I'm going to do with that in a second. I've got this area here, which is a gap which I've left, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill that with packing material, and then I can go over the top of it with my modelling compound, which is going on quite nicely. Now this is going to make a horrendous noise, so I'll probably mute the sound while I'm doing this. But basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this packing material here. This is not useful for anything really. It will just be going in the bin if I didn't use it like this. I'm going to tear some up, screw it up and stuff it in that gap until I've got the contour I want, and then I can come over the top with modelling compound. So I will get that done. It's quite simple, but you can watch what it looks like. There we go, you can see that that has packed in really nicely, and now I'm going to be able to skim over the top of that without wasting lots of material. So I've got another section just in front actually that I need to fill as well, so I'll get that done and then I will do the compound at the top, so I'll show you what that looks like. Yeah, I can see just how effective and efficient that is. You can use anything really. You can use screwed up junk mail. I also use brown paper, packing materials that comes. I use all sorts of different things like that that gets shipped to me and would otherwise just be waste. It's a really nice way of recycling and bulking things out, especially when you're not totally sure when you're doing your cutting of your model, where your contours are exactly going to be. Or in this case, I will be packing around the uprights with the same material and then coming in with the modelling compound to make it smooth, and it's going to work really, really well. So just a little tip, a little hint. I'm nearly done for this session of this. I'm going to do spend another 10-15 minutes, and then it's pretty tired, so I'm going to get an early night tonight. So yeah, so I'll turn the camera off now. I'll carry on basically doing what you see. I'm just going to work along the back area here. I've come down the front a little bit here, but mainly I'm focusing along the back. and below the road. So yeah, a little bit more to do, and then I'll carry on again tomorrow. I'm also taking this slowly because I really don't want this to warp, and there's a lot of moisture that goes into the modelling compound, so I want that to completely dry and only add on small amounts and put small amounts of water onto the wood, even in the small areas that it's hitting it right down here at the front. So yeah, a big moment in this build. Pretty excited to see this being done. This morning I lifted the road back in and I've realised that I did make a mistake yesterday. I was rushing ahead a little bit much. What I should have done actually is drawn on here where I wanted the slope to go to, because you can see that on the picture we have this nice kind of like scrubby area and it's still way too low. So I have these small bits of polystyrene that came out of a unit I actually put together yesterday. So what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to try to cut down some of these and build up the area with the polystyrene. If that doesn't prove to work, then I will use my screwed up newspaper trick and we'll just bulk up a little bit more, but I should be able to do it certainly with some of these smaller bits. You can see if I stick that there, then another piece on top, then that's given me the bulk that I'll be able to kind of build this little tree lined area in here. So I'm going to need to do that. It's a bit of a shame, wasted a little bit of the modelling compound, but not too much. It's only that area that's gone wrong, because everywhere else is looking absolutely brilliant. I'm very pleased with it. So I'm going to build that up. I'll show you what I've done when I've done it. I can have a little bit of a play, and yeah, onwards and upwards. So I've gone in here, used that scrap polystyrene, like I said, glued it in place with my super strong glue. That has also helped me to get the contour here so that I'm not in the way of the bridge. So what I'm now going to do is come along, mix up some more of the modelling compound, and I'm going to try and get probably another 50% of the board done. So yeah, just going to mix some compound and smear it on. I'm not going to go too high. That was a lesson to me there. I shouldn't have done that, because I'm actually going to do this a line back, because this is where the cliff is. So I'm going to need to do that a little bit more sculpting where those stripes are. So I'm going to just carry on along the bottom and get as much of it done before I kind of fall asleep, because it's been another busy day. But yeah, so we'll just carry along here. And I might even try and get into the cave a bit, but I'm not sure. So I'll bring you back at the end of the session, show you how much I've got done. And if there's anything interesting, then I'll turn the camera on as well. But mostly it's just going to be mixing, smearing, mixing, smearing. So I've been making some good progress on applying the modelling compound. And I've just turned this onto its back. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come along and do the modelling compound along here, which is going to be easier for me to do with it on its back than trying to stick it to a vertical surface. And there's also quite a lot of areas here which is going to make it a bit easier as well. So once I've done all of that, then I will bring it back. We'll do the next section, which will be sticking the bridge in place and then filling in around it, which is going to be nice and easy to do. But yeah, just going to be working on all of this now. So I thought I'd quickly show you. I've also printed out more trucks and another truck back. So I now have enough to make the full trailer. I need to clip off these, clip off the fuel tanks because I don't need them, but they will be able now to work with the struts between them and the plane can sit on top. I'm now starting to get to the point where I really need to start painting these up as well, so I'll be putting these into the painting cycle. So yeah, good progress. More modelling compound to be done though. I made some really good progress on this, putting on the modelling compound. And what I'm looking at doing now, if I just kind of zoom in over there, is starting to build the buttress. Now the bridge is not yet the raised road is not yet glued in, but this is where the buttress is going to start. It's going to go into and go underneath the bridge, so the land will slope up to here, and then we will have the concrete buttress and the land will continue to slope up until it meets kind of over here. So what I'm going to do now is glue that down in place, so I can lift the bridge out, glue that in place, and then when that's set, I'll be able to come along without the bridge in place and just finish off the rest of the scenery and terrain underneath here, which is going to be very hard access when the bridge is in place. And then once I've done that, I'm pretty much ready to put the bridge down and then fill in these gaps, which you can't see now because I've zoomed in too much. So let me just change that angle a bit. So once I've done that, I'll be able to come in, fill in these gaps here that you can see where the bridge is going to go, and then that'll have to be done after the bridge is glued in place. But I'm getting very close to that time as well. There's a few bits and pieces left to do modelling compound wise on the top, but I'll do that after I've finished working on this. And then I've also got the cave to do, which I'm really looking forward to getting that done. I've kind of done the front of it, done it very smooth as well there, but I've not done inside the cave yet. That'll be one of the last things I do, I reckon. So yeah, very cool progress. Been a couple of days just kind of spending a little bit of time here and there. Get those glued in place, fill the rest of it in, and bring you back when I come to do the next part, which will be the buttress and gluing this bridge down. So yeah, that won't be very long. Probably get to that today, hopefully. Well, it's the calm after Rosie's party. Oh, what a great party that was. But that's not really the subject of this video. But I'm still wearing my party shirt from that. It's absolutely brilliant. Anyway, more of that. If you want to hear more about that, watch the vlogs. So I'm now ready to start to stick the roadway down and the raised roadway, and I've also just been cutting and putting in place some blue foam up here for the rest of this kind of the wall, the retaining wall. Now a lot of this will be behind modelling compound because it's going to build up like this, but I figured that was probably the best way to do it. So the path through this, how I'm going to do this, I'm going to glue the bridge down. I'm going to make use of my usual super strong glue, get that stuck in place, so the extreme fix, and then when that's all in place, then I will use the same glue to stick this in place, and then let that go off, and then I'll be able to come in and fill in these gaps. And yeah, very, very surprisingly, amazingly excited about this, because this has been quite a big build and it's really looking really good. So that's what I'm going to do. I'll probably run the camera but not talk while I'm doing it, and so you can see how I go about gluing it down. When that's gone off, there'll be more modelling compound. I'll come along and show you how I'm going to fill in all these gaps, and then we're going to come to the fun part, which is painting and then detailing, which is, as you know if you watch this, very much my favourite part. Now regarding the cars and the vehicles, they've been primed and they're starting to be painted. Still need to put some more colour onto the actual B52, and I still need to work out how I'm going to go and do the struts that it sits on between the two truck backs. So there's a fair amount yet to do, and you can see here, this is one of Rosie's toys, legs falling off. This is the toy hospital. So the toy hospital is encroaching. So yeah, if you're wondering why there's a stuffed reindeer in shot. But anyway, let's get this glued, and yeah, onwards. Brilliant. So now this is securely fastened, I'm going to come in and fill in these gaps where the pillars go down, and also just out of shot I'm going to do the slope up of the ground going up past that kind of retaining wall that I built. And I'm going to be making use of the same very, very rattly glossy packing material I've got here to build in there. So I'll pop some music on, because it's going to make a lot of noise, and just show you how I'm going to do this one, and then I'll crack on. It's early, just before work, so I've only got a few minutes, so I might only get this section done, but I'll crack on through the rest of the day, and by the end of the day hopefully I'll have all of the modelling compound done, bar the cave, which I'm going to do last, and then we can start to look at actually painting and finishing off, which is obviously the bit that I'm going to enjoy the most. I'm also hoping to get to the shops to find some correct coloured paint to finish off doing the plane, and finally, really, I'm going to have to work out how I'm going to do that that structure that supports and goes across the two trailers that I've printed out. So yeah, we're getting close, but there's still quite a lot to do. Still quite a lot of challenges to go. But yeah, hopefully I'll be able to get this done, get this all finished off today, so that I can start on the painting and the scenery, and then the vehicles will probably be the last thing I do. I've made some really good progress here. As you can see, I've done a lot of the underneath, which proved to be quite interesting over here, actually, right underneath under there. And where I'm at now is at the far end. I am doing the last little bit, and what I've decided to do is, rather than use the screwed up paper, which has worked really well everywhere else, I've actually carved some shapes of some throwaway polystyrene from some packing. I'm going to glue that in place and then go over the top of that with modelling compound, and that will finish off the actual terrain, or the modelling of the actual scenery, other than the bridge. As you can, not the bridge, other than the cave, which, as you can see, I've not touched, which I'm going to do last. So yeah, just going to glue these in place and then cover that with modelling compound, and then all the compound work for now is done, which is awesome. So now we come to it. All of the modelling compound is done. What I now need to do is start to paint. And that's going to basically be, well, as with everything that I do, it's going to be me making it up as I go along, because that's how I rock. And what I've got is, I've got the paint that is called Africa. So I've got that here. And I'm actually just literally going to do a coat of Africa, which is a kind of purpley colour, over the entirety of it. So that's going to be a very good base colour. And from there, I'm going to need to bring up oranges, and I'm going to need to bring up reds, and all sorts of other colours to make it match what the picture shows. But underneath it all, and there's a little bit of grey, there's some grey rock. Sean was most disappointed by that. But underneath all of that, I think, will be this colour. So it will give a good kind of like undercoat. It's going to take a little while, probably more than one session. It's just, as you can tell from the light, possibly coming to the end of lunchtime here. So I've eaten, I'm about to get back to work, so I'm just going to do a little bit of this now, and I'll try and grab a little bit of time during the rest of the day and maybe tomorrow to finish this off. And when I come to the next colour, whatever colour that is, I will put the camera back on. But it's not going to be very interesting, because all I'm doing is painting this. I do love it. I do like Africa. I do like the colour Africa. So I'm just going to paint that all over everything. Part of this will also involve breaking off any loose bits of the modelling compound. I know that actually there are some areas where it's a little bit loose, little bubbles that might come off. That's not a problem if it happens. It's not a very exciting step, but it will transform the look, and it means that we're getting a little bit closer to finishing off this entire build, which is really good. Just can't wait to see it done. Anyway, enough rambling. Let's do this steady by steady, little by little, step by step. When it's done, I'll bring it back. So the first coat on the rocks is done. There's a couple of bits and pieces where white's still showing through, but that'll get picked up. I haven't done the front here in the cave. As I say, I'm going to start working on the cave separately, and I'll paint that. That will be the last thing I do, probably. What I've also started to do is applying paint to the pillars and to the side walls. What I'm going to do next is finish that process. So paint the rest of this. I'm going to mask off the inside of the road. This will eventually get painted with black, probably with black grout, and I probably will need to re-scrape it so it stays, but I'll probably do it with black grout, and then I can paint the centre line in and do all that stuff on top of it. So I don't need to mask the whole thing. I just want to mask the edges where it might get lots and lots of paint on it. But I'll be painting all of the details, all of the sides and the uprights with the same base colour, so I'll do that now. And then it's going to be the case of starting to pick the colours out, which is going to be probably the most fun bit and the most difficult bit, because finding the colours and trying to mix them up right is not going to be immediately easy. However, that's what this is all about. So yeah, a bit more paint onto the side of the road, and then I will bring you back when I've done that, and we'll start to have a look at what the other colours are that I'm going to use for the rocks and the dirt. So the next step on this, now that I've done my base coat of the Africa, and I am going to have to do another couple of coats of that on the woodwork and or the stonework around the actual road, is to build up colours for the stones or for the backdrop. So if I zoom in and we have a look at this picture, what you can see is it's quite orange and it's yellowy and it's creamy and it's pale, and there's darker bits and there's kind of grey brown there. So what I've done is I've gathered together a load of my kind of paints that I've got. I'm probably going to need to get some more colours, and I'm going to mix them up and dry brush them on and just hopefully get something that approximates the colours that you see in that picture, which is going to be fun but also quite a challenge because I don't actually have any orange particularly. I've got kind of a mustardy and actually over here I've got a brighter yellow and a dark red, which you've seen me use before on other projects. But yeah, I don't have anything that's directly out of the pot is going to be fine. So yeah, I'm going to have a bit of a play. I'll probably run the camera a bit just so you can see. This is going to be experimental, very much experimental, but I do think that this orange is something that I don't have. The closest I've got would potentially be a mix between these two, I think, which is what I'll try first. So yeah, let's see how it goes. Let me get some mixing done, and then I'll probably turn the camera on and talk you through what I've done and how I'm doing it. Well, that mixing was a rank failure. I haven't been able to get an orange, so I'm going to have to go to the shops. So what I'm going to do instead is just start on the lightest stuff, which is at the top, which I've got colours for. So I've got this, which will work well, and I've also got an even lighter yellow, which I've just put all over myself, and I also got this kind of nice kind of neutral grey. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to just start painting on that. So it's not going to be a very fun thing to watch, so I probably won't film very much of it, but it's in stripes is the key. The bit that I can't do is this flat area, but what I can do is come along and, for example, I can paint a stripe of yellow kind of there, which is, and I can go over and over with different colours, but I need to remember to go basically always in a left to right action, because that's how the geology is. So I'm going to start doing this. Just going to do this all over the whole thing, building up different colours. I've got different brushes for different colours, so I don't have to mix. So this is obviously my golden yellow. But what I can then do is get, for example, the lighter yellow, come in with a different brush and put that in there. Now it is a little bit bright, but it will dull down as I start to come over with more and more colours and mix it up, and it's going to be quite striking anyway. So I'm going to do this over the whole of the piece, and it's going to take me a while, so I'll probably just turn the camera off now and bring you back, put it a little bit more, show you what the progress is. I'm thinking this is going to be a good colour to use. It's very similar to the underlying colour actually. I might even need a little lighter than that. But anyway, just going to be coming along and drawing in stripes of different colours like this to bring out the lines that I see in the picture. And then when I've got some orange, I'll add in orange as well. So yeah, not as easy as I was hoping, but then if something's easy, it's often not worth doing. It's only worth doing if you're learning or struggling a little bit. So yeah, I'm going to carry on with this, and I'll bring you back when I've got more to show you. Today I got to the shops and I managed to pick up some oranges. Now, as it happened, my mixing did actually turn out pretty well. I'm pretty proud of that. But I've picked up the right paints now, which is going to be better. So I've got a few oranges, got a lighter one there, got a more luminous one, which might not be quite so good, and a really, really rich one, which is not going to be good for this particular project. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come along and I'm going to paint along here with the orange, and then along there with the kind of slightly lighter, and hopefully this is going to look good. And then I can start to do the grass and the trees, because suddenly I'm, as per usual on my projects, I'm suddenly running out of time. This week with being sick hasn't helped me with my productivity. So let's slap this on. Yeah, that's a bit better, isn't it? Get this painted along here, and then what we'll do is we'll come along and do some dry brushing of different colours over the top of it. So yeah, I got quite close to my mix, but not really the colour I was looking for. That's much more what I want. Good. I'll get that done and bring you back when I come to the next colours. So just over this part there's actually a little bit of grass, which is unusual. There's not very much grass on this diorama, but there is here. So what I'm going to do is just use some of the shop bought flock that I've got to cover this area with a little bit of flock, not too much. On top of this will eventually go trees, obviously, because that's what most of the layout is. Most of the diorama is trees, but there are patches of grass up here. So slap some terrain glue on, and then I'll get my flock and I will sprinkle it on as I always do, just like that. There we are. So I'll go along everywhere where I think there's patches of grass and do this technique, let that dry, and the next thing to do is going to be trees. But having said that, I might actually work on the road a little bit and get that done and do the trees next. So while this is drying, I will work on the road. So I'll get this done and then I'll bring it back and we'll have a look at how I'm going to do the road surface. So now what we're going to do is going to paint and fill and do whatever we need to do on this road section to make it actually look like tarmac. So the first thing that I need to do is come along with my wire brush and scratch it up again, which makes a horrible noise, but you're just looking at putting some texture in so that whatever you're applying to this shiny stuff actually grabs. So I'll get that done and then turn the camera off and then come back when that's done to show you the next step. And that's done. Phil, my mum, she's sat just over there trying to read while I did that, and it's a really horrible noise. So what I've done is I've mixed up some black grout, and if you're not sure how to do this, there's a video linked in the description below showing how I go about making my grout texture mix. And what I'm going to do is basically paint this on over the whole thing. I'm going to use it also to fill this gap here, which is where the two sections join. But this will give a good even colouring, and then I can paint on top of that with the markings for the road. So yeah, I might need a bigger brush and almost certainly need to mix up some more, but that's what I'm going to do, paint this all over, and that will give a nice texture and a nice dark finish, because it's quite a new looking road actually, and that will look well. So yeah, I'll just get this done and I'll bring you back. Probably next thing's going to be will be the trees. Maybe it'll be the markings on the road. I'm not sure. But yeah, this is going to be me for the next 15-20 minutes or so. Fun. There we are. Done the first little section. This is really starting to come together now. So as you can see, I've painted up the truck and the bases, and I've also put the colour onto the actual plane, which I like a lot. The flock is pretty well dried now as well, so the next step I'm going to do actually is another coat of this colour on the concrete, because I forgot to do it before I did the road base, but the road base is looking really, really nice. I ended up having absolutely enough, and maybe even a little bit too much of that mix. The only disappointment is it's not actually filled in this gap as well as I wanted it to, so I might have to think about how I'm going to resolve that, but for now I'm going to leave it. So yeah, it's going to be paint onto the concrete sections, and then I will do the line down the middle, and then we will look at putting the trees on. But this is really, really getting close to completed now. The biggest challenge now is the actual frame that goes underneath the plane, which is kind of like blue metal, and I have some ideas on how to do it, but that's going to be the biggest challenge for me, but I'll get to that very soon. But this is really, really starting to come together. I'm very, very pleased with how it's looking, and yeah, I've had a lot of fun. I've learned a lot of things with this one. Of course, I need to do the cave as well. Let's not forget that, so I must get that done this week as well. I've just finished painting the underneath of the roadway and also touching up the sides. So the next step is to paint the yellow line. And so as you can see, what I've done is I've masked off the centre, and I'm going to come along with this yellow paint, and I'm going to be very careful with this. So I'm going to come along and I'm going to actually hold down the masking where I'm painting, because I don't want it to shift or move. And this masking tape is not proper painter's masking tape. It's just cheap stuff from the local hardware store, so it doesn't actually stick down all that well, which is kind of good as well, because I also don't want it to be peeling off the texture that I put down with the grout. So yeah, it's not going to take me very long. I'm just going to paint all the way along like that with the yellow, and then take the masking straight off and let it dry. There is actually a dotted white line on either side as well, which I'm going to try and do. That's potentially going to be a little bit different, so when I come to that I'll bring you back. It won't just be a case of putting masking tape like this. It'll be a case of running the masking tape and then also marking off where there's no white, which I'll do with just some more masking. But yeah, this is really now starting to come to the end of this. Next steps will be, after I finish this, we'll be starting to plant the trees, and I've got lots and lots of trees to plant, which is probably going to take me a while to do, just to do it slowly but surely, building up all the texture. So not just trees, but also bushes and other undergrowth. But yeah, we're getting there, which is good, because I'm running out of time. Well, not really, but I'm busy in my other life, so I don't have as much time to do this as I used to. Summer is coming, lots of garden work to be done and what have you. So that's painted. So let's peel that off, and you can see that pretty much that's good. Yay! Happy with that. Regular viewers will know that I went a little bit nuts buying trees. I have lots and lots of trees, and one of the main reasons is because of this project. So what I'm about to do is start putting trees on, and I'm not going to talk over much of this. But I'll talk you through the process, and then I'll just get on with it. And I might run the camera for a time lapse, I might not. I might run it just for a little bit of a time lapse, I might not. But what I've got in this bag here is going to be perfect for me, because it's a whole range of sizes of tree, and I need to put a whole range of sizes of tree onto the diorama. So let me show you how to do it. I have a plate down here, which I have a dollop of PVA, which you can't see. Actually, you can like that. There it is, a dollop of PVA in the middle. And I've got a bradawl, which is one of those tools that you don't realise you need when you're doing hobbying until you need it. So what I'm going to do is come along, and I want to put a tree right here. So I'm going to carefully, and carefully is the operative word, drill a little hole with my bradawl, like that, dip my tree into my glue, and push said tree into the hole. And we have a tree. Now that's possibly a little bit too high, and also a bit hard for you to see because of the backdrop. Let me move that. That'll make it a little bit easier to see. And zoom in a bit on that tree. Now that's not the best application I've ever done. So let's take it out and make the hole a bit bigger and a bit deeper. And there we are, right the way through into the, that's better, right the way through into the polystyrene below. And then we can push that in, and there we are, we have a tree. So I need to do that all the way along, and all the way along, and down there, and down here, and all the way around there. So I have a lot of treeing to do. So like I say, not sure if I run the camera, I might do a little bit of a time lapse while I do this top ridge, but yeah, it's going to be lots of trees. So what I'm now going to try and do is this kind of blue frame trailer which runs and supports the body of the B52. So what I've got is I have this coloured card I bought from Lidl, and it has some blue, dark blue, which is a pretty good match. I'm on a shaky cam because I want to move around a little bit. So this is the card that I'm going to use, and what I'm going to do is measure the distance, which is going to be roughly from this joint underneath to near the front of the fuselage there, just below where the cockpit is. And I'm going to cut a couple of lengths that is going to be about 5mm, and I'm going to cut another couple of lengths that's going to be the same length, and going to be about 2mm. And the reason for that is, if this will focus, yep, what you'll see is there's actually a little bit of a lip along the top of that metal. It's not really focusing very well. There's a little bit of a lip along the top of the frame, which is what it sits on. There's also this yellow thing in the middle, which is a cross member. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to make the frame, going to measure what I need, going to make the frame, glue it all together, including that yellow piece, which I'll probably make out of foam. And then once it's glued together, then I will be able to put it onto the actual piece. I'm not going to stick any of this actually together. The vehicles will just be placed on, the plane will just be placed on, everything will just be done and for this particular challenge, because eventually this is going to go onto the wall as part of one of my model railway, and so obviously I need to be able to move it around without risking damaging things. I have been making some really good progress on the trees, as you can see here. I've pretty much finished the back and over there, and I have now started on this area here. I'm going to be working on the undergrowth as well next, and I'm also starting to think about how I'm going to do this lovely cave system. So I've got about a week left of deadline, and I don't want to be feeling pressured, so I'm going to keep on just a little bit of time. It's now just about lunchtime at work, so I've got 5-10 minutes I think, and maybe do some cutting. So I'll get my materials together and then bring you back for when I actually start the assembly. But yeah, just going to make use of cardstock. It's a nice thick card this, so it should be okay. And I should be able to build a good framework, because I'm thinking that between each side I'll probably put quite a few cross members, and that will then give it a good bit of structural integrity and rigidity. So yeah, very pleased how it's coming on though. It's really starting to look good. As you can see, I've got some blue card cut. It's actually all doubled over. I did that, didn't film it. So this is a 2cm strip, which I folded in half. And this is a 1cm strip that I folded in half. So I did 3 of the folded in half 2cm strips and 2 of the normal ones. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to stick the 1cm folded on top of the 2cm folded to make that little overlap like I discussed. So I'll do that, and then the other folded over one is going to be used for spares and cut up, and for the little bit at the front where it actually kind of goes up at an angle past the nose of the plane. So just using PVA, and I just use PVA to glue this, but I'll show you how I go about doing it. Basically put a little bit of PVA, a very little bit. You want to spread it out a lot. I'll tell you what, I won't get the PVA on my metal because that would be annoying. So yeah, so we just spread the PVA out all the way over the back of this bit of folded up card, and then I will put it in place and weight it down with the rest of these flat metal pieces, and that will go off very quickly. This is the absolute ideal thing that PVA is for, is gluing card or wood together. That's its best thing. So yeah, so I'll do that on both of these, or on 2 of the thicker sections, and weight that down, and then I'll bring it back for the next step when I come to it, whatever that is. I'm not totally sure what it'll be. This is very much a guessing game for me at the moment to get this right, making it up as I go along, but that's basically the idea. I'll stick the other one on, place them onto this onto this double metal, and then put this stack on each. Oh, clunk! Yes, they're heavy. Put that stack on each side, and that will then hold it flat and make sure it dries and doesn't warp. So yeah, I'll bring it back when I get to the next step. So the cardboard gluing has gone well. What I'm going to do now is paint up these 2 blocks. They're basically a centimetre square of blue foam, and it's going to take a little while, a couple of coats, but I'm going to paint them up with this yellow paint basically. and they will be the blocks that will join the two cross pieces together that are quite visible on the picture. So yeah, I mean, I'm going to get paint all over myself doing this, and it will just take 3 or 4 applications, because I don't want to stick it to this metal frame. So I will have it knocked it over. So I'll paint 3 sides, let that dry, and then come along and paint the other sides and the ends, let that dry, and then do multiple coats. So it'll take a little bit of time, but this is the next step to do. When that's all done and how many coats it takes, I'll bring you back, and we will then look at sticking it together and building up the rest of the structure for this frame that the plane is actually sitting on, which is basically the final part of this bit of the diorama. After this, actually, I'm going to have a look at this cave, I think. So that's going to be the next thing you'll probably see me doing. But I'll just paint these up so that they look good, and they're the right colour. Here we have the cave. And what I'm going to do now is I've got my modelling compound here, and I'm going to start to finish this off. Put the texture in it and work out roughly how it's actually going to be, because I've still not 100% convinced myself of how this is going to look. And in true beard clipper fashion, I'm just going to go for it and hope that it falls out. And if it doesn't fall out right, then it'll fall out how it falls out, and then I'll persuade myself it's right. So I'm mixing up a batch of the modelling compound here, just off camera. And this is going to be a little bit fiddly, so I don't think I'm going to be able to film very much of it because, well, as you can see, when I get in here and I try and get back, I'm right in the way of the camera. Hiya. So I probably can't do that film very much, so I'll probably come back when I'm done with it. But I can start at the front, and what I'm going to be looking at doing is quite a rough floor. I want this to be, don't want this to look finished like the rest of it. I want it to have bumps and lumps, and I would like to try and do some, I'm not sure how much, but some stalactites and stalagmites. I'm not sure how I'm going to do it. I'm going to have a play around with that. That's going to be the thing that I'm going to learn while doing this. And I think I've said that I would like possibly to have a little bit of a stream appearing there and coming down this area here, or I might actually have one coming along here, dropping down, and then also there. So have a little bit of water going on. So I think that'd be quite interesting. Give it a little bit of fun, and then potentially I can have someone kayaking on it, which would be quite cool. So that's my thinking at the moment. I'm not sure if it'll happen. I think lots of things, they don't all occur. So yeah, I can't really film much more. I'm going to get right in the way, and this is really difficult actually even doing this little bit while trying to stay out of shot. So I'll bring you back when I finish, show what it looks like, and the things that I've done, because obviously I'm going to need to leave channels where I'm going to have the water. So yeah, it probably won't take me very long. I'll bring you back when I've got something more to show you. We've got our yellow blocks. The cave is progressing nicely but slowly. I'm needing to do it in stages, but it is going on well. So we're going to move on to this bit, one of the blocks. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to mount the blue cross beams, the long beams, to the top of the blocks. So this is going to be done very non-scientifically, but hopefully it'll be alright. So what I'm going to do is mark roughly where I want each of these, each of the cross pieces to go. And I'm just eyeballing it. So there we are, we've got those marks. And then I will transfer those across both blocks. Apologies for the banging if you can hear that. The sink work has nearly finished, which is very, very exciting for me down in the workshop. So we'll put those across like this. And then I'm sure you've guessed what we're going to do is stick, just using PVA, going to slot that beam in there, slot the other beam in the other side, and then roughly work out where I want that to go, and then slot the other one in there, do the same, and then glue them in place. And then when that's dried, and I'm not going to touch it, I'm not going to rush this, when that's dried, what I'll do then is I'll probably put some more supports across. I think there might be a little blue one I'm seeing that goes across there, which I can make use of the extra blue cardboard that I cut. And when that's all done, then what I'll do is I will look to this end and look to do the kind of like angle up that will join the two together in a triangle. So yeah, I'm going to get that done. Won't take me long, and I'll bring you back when it's finished, and when we're looking to do the next step, which will be sticking this all together. Because I think I am going to glue this to the trailers, and I think I'll probably leave the truck separate. There's actually a little black bar that I need to put here, which I'll make in the same way as I made these yellow ones. I'll do it in XPS, paint it black, and then that'll do that. And then yeah, then we're rocking and rolling and we're done. Then all I've got to do is finish the cave and put the rest of the trees on, and the whole diorama's finished, which is very, very exciting. There's actually a little bit more to do. I say that. Casey, one of my regular viewers, thank you very much, suggested that I use some of the Luke's APS's modelling compound to put a little bit of texture and dirt just under here, underneath the actual bridge. So just down here, if you look at the picture, there's a little bit of rockfall that goes on here, and so I'm going to get that done as well. Enough rambling, let's get this trailer made. It's glued nicely to these yellow blocks, so what I'm now going to do is put the blue reinforcing beams across. And I've cut those to length. As you can see, they fit perfectly between, and I'm actually just going to use super glue because it's going to make it a bit easier for these to stick. And one goes halfway here and one goes halfway up there, and then I'll leave those to dry again. But we're getting there on this now, it's not going to be far until it's done. And I've also very nearly finished doing the cave, so I can show you how that looks, and then get to adding in the details of the cave as well. So yeah, we're getting close now, which is good because I've only got a few days left until this needs to be finished for the challenge. So I'm going to stick the other one in and then let that dry, and then the final step will be to do the kind of front end, which is going to be angling up to a point here, and I'll get that done and bring you along when I get to that. But yeah, getting there. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to take some of the, it's so old it still says Luke's APS, this is Geek Gaming Scrubland Base Ready, and I'm going to apply it along the front here and a little bit underneath there, and then later on I'll come along and I'll put some larger rocks and what have you in that area. So I've just got some watered down PVA here, what I term my terrain glue. Lots and lots and lots of people use this. I can't claim to have originated it, but I really like it. I'm just going to slap some of that on, don't let it run too much, and then I'm going to apply this in pinches like this so that it just grabs, and then once this is dried I'll come along with the same glue and seal it so it doesn't fall off. So it is literally as simple as this to apply. So I'll get this done across everything, and yeah, as I say, seal it once it's finished, once it's done, and that just gives that nice kind of like look of screed that that is visible on the picture. I'm going to pick some of these bigger rocks that have fallen off when I've been throwing and stick them on individually, so it won't take very long, and once it's done, once I'm happy with it, like I say, I'll let it dry and then come and seal it again afterwards. So that's that. Next thing, I'm probably going to have a look at this cave. So the cave, I'm really pleased with how it works, and I'll try and get a slightly different angle once it's finished, because it's got lots of lumps and bumps and what have you. But what I'm going to do now is come in with the same Africa paint that I painted as a base for all of the rest of the model, and I'm going to come in and paint everything I can reach with that. I probably could, to be honest, have done this front bit previously and then done the cave, but don't mind really, the fact that I'm doing it now is fine. So I'll just get that slapped on, and I'll paint inside as well, and then we'll start looking at the river and the other details that are going to go inside, which is the final part of this. And I do need to paint the white lines, don't I, on the road, so I need to get that done, and then I can finish off the rest of the trees. So yeah, it's just going to be a lot of painting, so I'll get that done and I'll bring it back for the next step when I get to it. Beautiful day today, so the sun is streaming in, which makes it very hard to film, but I still prefer it being sunny. So what we've got now is the process of attaching the trailer to this frame, and I probably put this one a little bit far forwards, this blue cross piece, which is a bit of a shame, but it is what it is. So what I'm going to do is stick this first to the front one, let that go off, and then stick it first to the back one, let that one go off, and then stick it to the front one. So a little drop of super glue just on the top of these wheel arches, which is where it's going to be secured. And then what I'll do is very carefully and attempting to get this right first time, and hopefully my hand is not in the way because I can't see the camera right now. Drop that down on, there we are, like that. Make sure that's at 90. There we are. And then I've got a weight, but not a heavy weight, just to sit on there, and I'll put one of those on the front as well. And that should now go off relatively quickly. And then when that's gone off, I will glue the front, and then the trailer is ready for the front angle. I've decided to do it this way because this is going to mean that my the distances are consistent. It actually was splaying very slightly from the front, so this is going to help pull that back together. And then then I'll do the front, and then pretty much the trailer's done. Very, very pleased. This morning I sealed the texture, the gravel and what have you that I put down underneath the bridge, so that's now going off, and I'm going to be able to get back onto doing more of the trees and paint the white line on, and then we're out. Very, very cool. Oh, here we are. Really are getting close now, so you can see that this is going to set nicely. I do still have to do the forward pointing bit that comes up here, and I still have to do the black bit that goes there, but that sits in absolutely perfectly and looks great. Very, very pleased with it indeed. So I will take that out of the way now, and you can also see that I have done the white lines. So I just did the same technique. I put some masking tape down, painted some white in dashes, and as I peel this off, there we have our white lines. So that's done. So, oh, not the light because that went high. So now, the next thing to do is to finish doing the trees. There's going to be trees down here, under here, and also a little bit more kind of over towards the back. The paint inside the cave is dry, so I'll be starting to do the river and the water and what have you that I want in there, and painting that up a bit. It's still one colour, so I'm probably going to come in with some of these other colours and just make it a little bit more interesting in there. But yeah, really getting close now, so I will bring you back when I get to the next step. I've just realised that you couldn't see what I was talking about with the cave system. So yeah, but anyway, it's nearly done. I just need to add paint to that. So yeah, pretty good. Very happy with how this is working out, and this is pretty much dried now from my sealing. There's still a little bit of wet glue just there where it pulled. But yeah, wrapping up. I'll bring you back when I come to the next step. So the final thing to do is to start colouring and then put the water effects on in underneath in the cave. And so what I've got is I've got three colours, quite strong colours, and I'm just going to kind of dab them in like this, not with much thought, and then I'll tie them together with a wash afterwards. The idea being just to make it a little bit more interesting than just painted, but also not make it too crazy. He says painting on a rich colour, but I want it to be fun. I've got purple as well here. So yeah, I'll probably come in with a wash of the and tie it all together with a wash once it's dried. But this is my idea to do something simple and effective. Hopefully effective. Hopefully it won't look too crazy once it's finished, but having fun is what it's all about, isn't it? So there we are, that's pretty much done. That's what I want to do for the rock colour. And then, as I say, when that's dried, which won't take long, I'll come along, I'll tie it all together with another paint, and I'll bring you along for that as well. And then you can look at putting the little river in, and then we're done. So yeah, really, really close to wrapping this up. So I've changed my mind about applying a wash over this. I think I really quite like the way that this has turned out with quite high contrast. It makes it look very interesting. So I'm going to do the next step, which is making a river, and then after that I'll do a new final step, which is applying some stones and gravel to this area. So what I've got here is I've got some clear silicone. I've got a jam jar with some alcohol in it, 100% alcohol, 99%, and a metal knife. And the way that we do this is you apply a bead there it is, of silicone along where you want it to be, which is along that kind of bed there. Hopefully that's relatively visible. It's a bit hard to film inside here. And then I'm dipping my knife into the alcohol, and using a knife with the alcohol you can smooth out the silicone sealant really nicely without it sticking to the metal or anything. Now you can use any utensil in alcohol to do this, because that's the nature of the alcohol impacting with this silicone, but a metal is the best because that also doesn't react with the alcohol. And it's as simple as that. We have ourselves a little bit of a stream bed. So I'm going to finish doing that. I'm going to have a bit coming along here, going to have a little waterfall here, and a little waterfall here. So I'll finish doing those, and then I will put the gravel on, bring you back for that. And then the last thing is I'd forgotten about and just looked at it, I need to do the blue up angle thing on the front of the trailer. So I better get that done as well. And then this is done. Fantastic. So this blue kind of pointy thing at the front of the trailer, I'm going to make it like this. I have two sections of the blue cut at the same length, and I've got a thin slither of it cut as well. Sliver, not slither. And what I'm going to do is run a little bit of super glue down one, and then stick this little bit of card not quite at the very end, but very near the very end of it, like that. And try not to stick it to myself, which is easier said than done when you're dealing with super glue and cardboard. Tell you what, let's get a metal device to press it in. There we are. Right, so that's that. When that's gone off, I can use that to make an angle, like so. So I will have that as a little bit of support at that joint, and then actually I can glue that now, just like that. And then that will have a little bit of flex, which will mean I'll be able to then take this shape and glue it to the front of the trailer. But I will let that go off for a little bit before I do that. And then we have our little front piece. You can actually see it's splitting a little bit on this bit, so I might need to secure that again. Look, it's got a little bit of a gap, so I might need to. It hasn't glued right. I think that was probably done with the PVA, and I probably spread it just a little bit too thin. So let's just put a dab of super glue, if there is any left. I might have just taken the last out of this pot. There it is. Let's just put a little bit of super glue in here, just to hold that, and then shut it. So yeah, I'll get that done as well, off camera. I'm going to need to pick it up and what have you. But yeah, so once this is all set, I'll show you how I'm going to glue it to the front of the actual trailer. I'll do this actual gluing off camera because we're going to be a bit of a fiddle, but that's the plan. And in hindsight, I probably could have done a slightly longer upright at the front. So I'm using the blue as a support. And if I look at the picture, it does seem like there's some drop down or something there. So I'm happy with that to be a little bit different from the prototype. So I'm using that to support it, and then that will tuck in and glue in behind inside the other strut there, and then that's that done. So yeah, pretty close to finish now. Very, very exciting. So working in here continues to be difficult to film, but I think this is the last crafting I need to do on this build. So let me show you what I'm going to do. I have the very smallest dribble left of my terrain glue here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to come along and drop it in some areas, so in the cracks and gaps like that, and down in here. And then I have the Geek Gaming Scrub Lamp base ready, and I'm going to drop that in, but I'm going to be careful or try not to pick up too much greenery, and that will give a very good kind of like scattered rockfall effect. So yeah, that's the plan. A bit difficult to film and put it in, a bit difficult to put it in anyway because it's quite tight spaces when you're as clumsy as I am. But once that's dried, I'll seal that again just with another coat of the the glue over the top just so it doesn't fall out. But that is the last thing done. Brilliant. Wow, what an epic build, and what an epic video. I do like my long videos, but that was long even for me. I had about 3 hours of footage, which is trimmed down to just under 2, which is pretty good. But hopefully that's been interesting and informative, and hopefully you've made it this far, and if you have, 2 big thumbs up. That's brilliant, well done. It was such a great fun build, and having my mum there, because she was visiting at the time, was really cool, because she was sat in the room a lot of the time while I was hobbying, was enjoying reading a book and just spending time with me, and that was a great pleasure as well, which actually, fun enough, I'd forgotten about until editing this video, so there we are, there's an extra benefit. I'll wrap up now by saying thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate it. Don't be shy, do leave a comment below, let me know what you think, yeah, I hope that you've enjoyed the video, and as always, as I'm saying at the moment, if any of you is directly or indirectly impacted by the horrible war in Ukraine, my thoughts go to you and those who you might know who may be, and to everyone, please do stay healthy, stay safe, and stay well.